Man, I knew I wanted to write for the rest of my life after I lost my first poetry slam.
When I realized that I wanted to be a writer for the rest of my life, I think is when that grade 4 girl rejected my poem.
My first time on stage, I was at this monthly show in St. Kitts called Island Expressions. It was a mess, but I had a great time and I caught the bug immediately. And after that, I was like, well, this is the life for me.
My name is Joshua Scribe Watkins.
Patrick de Belen.
Hi, I'm Patrick Walters, and we are the Uncharted.
The Uncharted is what I would say the aftermath of this beautiful journey we went on from the Up From the Roots 2014 team, poetry slam team that traveled to Victoria, BC to compete in the national championships, the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word. The three of us really clicked. We decided we really liked working together. The Uncharted, I think, is an attempt to write about things and speak on things, not just that haven't been spoken on before, but in a manner that they haven't been spoken on before. An attempt to really break away from the normal spoken word narrative that exists today and really branch into the real nuance of life and what it means to be young people exploring the world from our perspective.
The Uncharted, to me, is a collective of 3 really dope poets that get together and write great bars. And
Agreed.
If you think of poet from Canada, like, you get a very limited view as to what images that come into your head. So I think us being 3 racialized men together in a group, kind of redefining what it looks like to be a storyteller in Canada, forcing ourselves to the forefront of storytelling almost. Yeah, that's what the Uncharted is to me, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
Question for our generation. Why?
Why really big tablets with keyboards? Aren't they just laptops?
Why do we tweet so beautifully but can't fly for
Why do we write so well but sound illiterate?
Lols.
Why Northwest?
Blue Ivy.
And Honey Boo Boo.
Why Tinder?
Living in Toronto really deeply affects my writing. It does. I have multiple poems about Toronto because it's really close to me. I mean, it's where I grew up.
I would say I'm a little bit different than the other guys on the Uncharted just because I have a little bit of a third-person view. Growing up in the Caribbean, moving to Toronto when I was 19, I am of, but not within. You know, so I am a part of Toronto. I exist, I work and live and all that good stuff. But at the same time, I'm also able to look at our city as for what it is and not be potentially biased by the fact that I've been here my whole life. So I think my view of it is pretty unique, but at the same time, I love Toronto. So I also am very careful to try and look at both sides and paint as objective a picture about our city as possible.
Living in Toronto and really growing up here influenced my writing a lot because of how I see culture and how I see people, really. I grew up around different cultures all of the time. So I grew up around Jamaican people, I grew up around Chinese people, I grew up around Sri Lankan people, I grew up around Somali people. It really shaped how I see what I write. I write with a bunch of people around me who can take pieces of what I've been through and understand it. So while I have the Jamaican/Canadian experience in Canada, some of you get that, like some people would get that at school. Some people would get that in the streets or wherever I was hanging out, but they don't get all of it. And so to have my entire perspective brought to the table and then to be shaped by so many other cultures really influenced the way I write.
Why cravings? Why addiction? Why overdose? Why prescription? Why tea parties? Why government? Why McDonald's? Who's loving it? Why isms? Why schisms? Why youth? Why prisons? Why juveniles get listed quickly as delinquent when we force them to participate in a fraud system?
Why do black mothers bleach their children's skins to be be lighter,
hoping it will make their futures brighter.
Why do people still treat blackness like a flaw?
Why is it easier for me than Josh to get a job?
Why do people still think Africa's a country?
Why are they Canadian and I'm just Asian? Why am I just nanny and child laborer?
How am I just spear and loincloth?
Why am I flies and swollen bellies?
Why are we always depicted like we need to be saved? Why do we spread awareness like a virus when we have no interest in a cure? Why is the pain of ignorance something we still choose to endure? Why does a group of forward thinkers only know how to move backwards? Question for our generation. Why
do you think we give a shit about the answers?
In terms of how Toronto has helped me grow my art, I mentioned earlier that I grew up in the Caribbean, a monoculture. Came here to Toronto and now am immediately introduced to multiple different stories, multiple different backgrounds, multiple different kinds of people. But I came here and decided that not only could I do poetry, semi-pro, whatever, do a side thing and also do poetry, but now I'm in a city that's large enough for me to actually be a full-time poet. And it's amazing that in 2017 we can actually sit here and say like we are full-time poets, we are professional, and remember that like what got you here was the hustle and the ethic and the hard work and not taking no for an answer and making any avenue that you did not see for yourself. So I think right now my thing is like if I don't see an avenue, make the avenue. If I don't see a show, make the show. If I don't see enough money coming towards poetry in whatever facet I think is important, then it's my responsibility to do that. And Toronto has empowered me to become what that person is.
If I were to give advice to younger poets, it would be seek out a mentor. Seek out a mentor and be humble. People grow with other people. Iron sharpens iron. That'd be my advice.
Yeesh.
Good advice.
We've always been a hop, skip, and jump away from greatness.
When living in quicksand, you lose faith that a movement can save you.
You have to be outstanding just to survive. You cannot live by the standards they gave you.
You have to be more. Because it wasn't long ago that black folk had to pole vault to get the vote.
How much coal could a colored boy deadlift in a mine shaft before he chokes on smoke?
How many borders have we sprint past for refuge and hope?
How many black boxes have we hurdled to keep the fire stoked? And now we run with the torch.
As a young token Asian, I was picked last for most big kid games. When they were surprised that I spoke fluent English, imagine their faces when I told them I spit flames.
They didn't believe me.
I was supposed to be the quiet nerd who fast-tracked through math class, a submissive servant, genetically worthless, sweeping your floors, fading into the background like my ancestors before.
But when it comes to fire,
I had to be the swordsman and the blacksmith.
when they were going for gold,
I was excavating diamonds for practice. We're the invisible race, so every time we spoke, it sounded like magic. So of course the villagers would disbelieve our talents until they smelt the stench of the master's heads I came back with.
young black youth, a buck-toothed brute, lazy eye with grades to match, they expected me to dribble, spewing slang while I dribbled into court. Take that how you will. They underestimated me, thinking dark skin meant ignorance, stupidity, until the force of my voice, the fluidity of my tongue-twisting linguistics reminded them I would not be made into the common statistic. To say I was outstanding amongst my peers was an offensive understatement. Now, people make payments to hear me blow minds with poetry until their skulls are vacant. Now how's that for greatness?
The idea of migrating to the country you were born in is a foreign concept to many. But after living in St. Kitts for 17 years, this Canadian society isn't set up for me.
Call a kid with an accent and confidence. Patrick, you speak too loudly. Walk around too proudly.
But as a poet, I understand that my words have meaning, even if your first world dictionary can't define me. So when the world handed me a bunch of textbooks and told me to get a degree, I said, okay. But then let's turn that into art therapy.
The doubters are scared of me.
Words that I run past them even when they had a head start. See, art is a great equalizer, and I'm putting in overtime just to make my goals tangible. And at the finish line, I'm measuring my success by the number of stories I've helped others express.
My progress is defined only by me. So when the world doesn't give you the stage, when there will be no honorable mention,
When you can settle for the consolation prize,
or be so great it demands their attention. MJ walked on air for slam dunks, it seemed illogical. He stamped his name on the game and can't fade away, it's impossible.
and when it comes to sprint records, Usain Bolt has every one, showing us that to chase our dreams, sometimes we have to run.
Serena plays the game with a love that raises a racket and serves backhands to her critics like a monarch ruling her bracket.
Manny Pacquiao, a Filipino fighter who uppercut the sun up, reminding a nation it's a time to be humble and a time to keep your gloves up.
It isn't so much the glory.
It is more so the struggle.
When climbing feels like crawling and one chooses to hustle.
3 part-time jobs and a college degree. Turning a green card into a PhD. Minimum wage to support a 10-person family.
Raising other kids to support your own.
Leaving work before the sun and it still beats you home.
Wearing the second-hand suit to be promoted in a position.
Double shifts in a taxi cab and somehow staying driven. We must never forget.
The preservation of greatness is not in the dust of trophy cases.
The blood, sweat, and tears dried up in the pavement.
Every smile you make, a movement. Every breath you take, a revolution. It is written in your own bones, your own veins of the blueprint.
So prove it to yourself.
And do not be discouraged by how far back you have started.
When they're running the same old lines, you must trailblaze through the margins.
Our parents came to unknown lands and proved that home is where the heart is.
It wouldn't be the passing down of torches if our path was not uncharted.